Have you ever wondered why some traders step into the market and feel as if they are entering a sacred temple, while others wander, as if through a labyrinth of shadows, forever lost in fear and hesitation? Imagine this: a screen glows before you, numbers flicker, prices surge and collapse. And yet, what is really being tested is not the market, but the psyche. The battle is not fought in the candlesticks or in the charts, but in the invisible terrain of the unconscious mind, where archetypes of greed and fear wage eternal war. To trade is to stand at the threshold between order and chaos, to confront the shadow that dwells within. Most traders believe they are merely buying and selling, placing orders and managing positions, but beneath that surface action lies something more primal. Each decision to enter or exit a trade is not just a calculation of probability. It is an act of self-expression, a reflection of the unconscious patterns that dominate one being. The fear of loss whispers like a serpent coiled in the dark, while the hunger for gain burns like fire demanding to be fed. One click of the mouse can awaken forgotten wounds, childhood memories of scarcity, hidden insecurities about self-worth, the desperate need to prove control over an uncontrollable world. The market is a mirror, merciless and unblinking. It reflects back to the trader every unresolved fear, every hidden desire, every projection of the ego. The novice steps into this arena unprepared, believing it is about knowledge, strategy, or technical mastery. But sooner or later, the truth is revealed. Trading is not about conquering the market, it is about conquering the self. Without this realization, the trader becomes enslaved, chasing wins like an addict chasing the next high, avoiding losses like a fugitive escaping shadows that grow only larger with each attempt to run. Some traders wake up each morning with rituals meant to calm the storm: affirmations, meditation, rigid plans, and yet, when the chart flickers in unexpected ways, their composure shatters. A sudden spike against their position feels like betrayal, as if the market itself were conspiring against them. The archetype of the victim rises, whispering excuses, blaming manipulation, blaming luck, blaming fate, but deep down, the betrayal is internal. It is the betrayal of discipline, the betrayal of one's own higher self, in exchange for the seductive comfort of emotional reaction. What would you think if I told you that every loss you fear is not punishment, but initiation? Each drawdown is a rite of passage, stripping away illusions of certainty and control. The ancient Stoics knew this truth, that one must learn to desire only what is within one's power, and accept with serenity what lies beyond it. Seneca spoke of rehearsing misfortune. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily of death and impermanence. For the trader, this means rehearsing loss until it no longer carries terror, contemplating failure until it no longer defines identity. The trader who resists loss resists reality itself, and reality will always break those who deny it. Has this ever happened to you? You set a plan, promising to risk only 2%, but as the trade moves against you, fear overtakes reason. You adjust stops, you double down, you beg the market for mercy. Or when the trade moves in your favor, greed erupts, whispering that you must hold forever, that this one will make you rich, that discipline can wait. In both cases, the archetype of the child is in control, impulsive, emotional, ruled by instinct, not wisdom. And when the inevitable outcome arrives, you are left not only with financial loss, but with shame, guilt, and the crushing weight of self-betrayal. The dark lesson of trading is this: the market does not care about you, but it will reveal you. It will strip away the persona you show to the world and expose the raw psyche beneath. Jung called it shadow work, the confrontation with the hidden parts of oneself that have been repressed or denied. In the glow of the trading screen, your shadow speaks. You are not in control. You are afraid. You are greedy. You are not yet whole. And until that shadow is faced, no amount of technical analysis, no strategy, no mentor can save you. Yet, within this confrontation lies transformation. The market, like an alchemist fire, burns away false identities and purifies the soul. Each loss, each painful mistake, is a hammer against the fragile shell of ego. Each disciplined trade, each moment of patience, is a step toward individuation, the integration of shadow and self into wholeness. Trading becomes less about winning or losing, and more about becoming. The question then is not whether you will suffer in trading, but whether you will allow suffering to refine you. Will you cling to old illusions, or will you embrace the fire as your teacher? The path is narrow, and the storms are fierce, but beyond them lies a freedom that cannot be bought or sold. Mastery of the mind, mastery of the self. Some traders sit before the charts as though they were entering a battlefield, armored with analysis, indicators, and plans, yet trembling inside with unspoken doubts. Their outward confidence is only a mask, concealing the inner storm of hesitation and fear. This duality is the essence of the shadow at play. The conscious mind insists it is prepared, while the unconscious sabotages from beneath, whispering hesitation when boldness is required, and recklessness when restraint is demanded. To trade is to live within this tension, a tension that can either shatter a soul or forge it into steel. Imagine this: the market surges, and in that surge your heart begins to race. You have studied the patterns, you know the probabilities, yet a voice inside urges you to act quickly, irrationally, as though missing this move would mean the end of opportunity forever. This is not logic speaking. This is the archetype of scarcity, the ghost of missed chances and lost years, compelling you to leap into the fire without thought. And once inside, as the market turns, another voice emerges, whispering panic, urging retreat, telling you that you were foolish all along. Within minutes, you have lived through an entire cycle of euphoria, terror, and despair. This is not trading, it is self-destruction disguised as participation. The greatest irony is that the market itself is neutral. It is neither enemy nor ally. It has no malice, no benevolence. Yet traders project upon it their deepest fears, their unhealed traumas, their unresolved hunger for significance. The market becomes father, mother, rival, punisher, savior. One trader sees betrayal in every stop-out, another sees validation in every profit. Both are trapped in projection, unable to perceive the market as it is, because they have not yet perceived themselves as they are. What would you think if I told you that discipline is not about controlling the market, but about controlling your own archetypes? The warrior must be invoked when patience is required, the sage when strategy is questioned, the monk when detachment is necessary. Yet most traders allow the child and the addict to take the reins. The child throws tantrums at every loss, and the addict, who chases every flicker of green candle as though salvation lies within it. Until these archetypes are recognized, named, and integrated, they will rule from the shadows, and every trade will be a ritual of unconscious self-sabotage. In the writings of Epictetus, there is a clear truth. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. Losses themselves are not tormented, is the meaning assigned to them that burns. One trader loses and thinks, I am a failure, I will never succeed. Another loses and thinks, this is tuition, a lesson paid for in currency. The difference is not in the market, but in the mind. Which voice speaks in you? The tyrant who condemns, or the teacher who refines? Most traders seek freedom in trading, dreaming of wealth, independence, the end of financial chains. Yet without inner mastery, trading becomes the cruelest form of slavery. For what is bondage, if not being ruled by fear at every tick, chained by greed at every rally, whipped by regret at every reversal? To escape the 9-to-5, and then become a prisoner to one's own impulses, is not liberation. It is a deeper captivity, one gilded with the illusion of choice. Consider the archetype of the gambler, forever chasing, forever feeding the hunger for the next thrill. In the market, this figure lives loudly. He seeks not consistency, not mastery, but intoxication, the rush of risk, the surge of dopamine, the temporary high of being right. Yet, when the rush fades, emptiness returns, and so he trades again, not for profit but for anesthesia. Many traders live this cycle without naming it, blind to the reality that they are not investors, not professionals, but addicts cloaked in the language of finance. Has this ever happened to you? You tell yourself this trade will be different. This time you will follow the plan. This time you will exit with discipline. But when the screen lights up, when the candle breaks, when the P&L flashes green, something takes over. You hold longer. You add recklessly. You ignore the plan, only to watch gains dissolve into losses. Then shame arrives, heavy as a stone, whispering that you are weak, unworthy, destined to fail. Yet shame is not destiny, it is shadow, calling for acknowledgement. Until you confront it, it will repeat, until the lesson is learned. The dark lesson here is not that trading is cruel, but that trading reveals cruelty already present within the psyche, the cruelty of the ego demanding perfection, the cruelty of fear punishing mistakes, the cruelty of desire never satisfied. When Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, he was describing the very path of the trader. Each obstacle, each loss, each mistake is the material of growth, the very fire by which strength is forged. The trader who resists obstacles suffers twice. The trader who embraces them is transformed. Some traders wake in the night, haunted not by the trades they lost, but by the trades they never took. The phantom of hesitation lingers, whispering of opportunities passed by, of fortunes that might have been theirs had they possessed the courage to act. This ghost is the archetype of regret, an insidious companion that corrodes confidence and distorts judgment. Regret is not simply memory. It is a chain, binding the present to shadows of the past. The trader who lives under its weight becomes paralyzed, fearing that every decision will spawn another ghost to torment him tomorrow. Imagine this: your finger hovers above the button, analysis complete, risk calculated, and yet something stops you. A flicker of doubt, a vision of past losses, a sudden tightening in the chest. You hesitate, and in that hesitation the moment is gone. The price surges, your plan validated by the very market you doubted, and now the torment begins. You tell yourself you will wait for another chance, but when it comes, the same shadow arises. Soon, hesitation becomes habit, and habit becomes destiny. What you call caution is in truth fear dressed in the robe of wisdom. Consider the archetype of the gambler, forever chasing, forever feeding the hunger for the next thrill. In the market, this figure lives loudly. He seeks not consistency, not mastery, but intoxication, the rush of risk, the surge of dopamine, the temporary high of being right. Yet, when the rush fades, emptiness returns, and so he trades again, not for profit but for anesthesia. Many traders live this cycle without naming it, blind to the reality that they are not investors, not professionals, but addicts cloaked in the language of finance. Has this ever happened to you? You tell yourself this trade will be different. This time you will follow the plan. This time you will exit with discipline. But when the screen lights up, when the candle breaks, when the P&L flashes green, something takes over. You hold longer, you add recklessly, you ignore the plan, only to watch gains dissolve into losses. Then shame arrives, heavy as a stone, whispering that you are weak, unworthy, destined to fail. Yet shame is not destiny, it is shadow, calling for acknowledgement. Until you confront it, it will repeat, until the lesson is learned. The dark lesson here is not that trading is cruel, but that trading reveals cruelty already present within the psyche, the cruelty of the ego demanding perfection, the cruelty of fear punishing mistakes, the cruelty of desire never satisfied. When Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, he was describing the very path of the trader. Each obstacle, each loss, each mistake is the material of growth, the very fire by which strength is forged. The trader who resists obstacles suffers twice. The trader who embraces them is transformed. Some traders wake in the night, haunted not by the trades they lost, but by the trades they never took. The phantom of hesitation lingers, whispering of opportunities passed by, of fortunes that might have been theirs had they possessed the courage to act. This ghost is the archetype of regret, an insidious companion that corrodes confidence and distorts judgment. Regret is not simply memory. It is a chain, binding the present to shadows of the past. The trader who lives under its weight becomes paralyzed, fearing that every decision will spawn another ghost to torment him tomorrow. Imagine this: your finger hovers above the button, analysis complete, risk calculated, and yet something stops you. A flicker of doubt, a vision of past losses, a sudden tightening in the chest. You hesitate, and in that hesitation the moment is gone. The price surges, your plan validated by the very market you doubted, and now the torment begins. You tell yourself you will wait for another chance, but when it comes, the same shadow arises. Soon, hesitation becomes habit, and habit becomes destiny. What you call caution is in truth fear dressed in the robe of wisdom, but the opposite shadow is equally dangerous: overconfidence. After a string of wins, a trader feels invincible, as though the market has become an obedient servant. This is the archetype of the king, intoxicated with power, convinced that fortune bends to his will. He doubles his size, abandons his rules, and mistakes luck for skill. And when the inevitable storm comes, it tears down the walls of his imagined kingdom, leaving him naked in the rain, stunned by the revelation that the crown was made of paper all along. Do you know how many traders live their entire careers swinging between these poles of hesitation and overconfidence, never finding the middle path of disciplined humility? They chase certainty in a realm that offers none, demand control in a place where control is illusion. They refuse to accept what the Stoics knew with clarity. The only true control lies within, not in outcomes, not in price, not in markets, but in response, in discipline, in choice. To understand this is to begin the work of individuation in trading, the slow and painful integration of shadow into self. Jung spoke of the alchemical process, the transformation of lead into gold, as a symbol of psychic wholeness. In the crucible of trading, the lead is fear, greed, regret, overconfidence, and addiction. The gold is discipline, detachment, patience, and mastery. But there is no shortcut to this alchemy. The fire must burn, the impurities must be exposed, the soul must endure its own dissolution before it can be reborn. Most traders resist this fire, clinging to illusions of easy success, searching endlessly for the holy grail of indicators, signals, and systems. They would rather decorate their prison than escape it. They forget that no system can save the undisciplined mind. No strategy can rescue the trader who is enslaved by his own shadow. The true edge is not hidden in a chart pattern, but in the psyche. The market does not reward the clever, it rewards the disciplined. Have you ever noticed that the moment you detach from outcomes, the market begins to feel different? When you no longer beg it for validation, when you no longer worship it as a god who can grant or deny your worth, something shifts. The chaos of the chart becomes less threatening, the randomness of outcomes less personal. You begin to see trades not as victories or defeats, but as expressions of probabilities. Losses lose their sting, wins lose their intoxication. You are no longer slave to either. This is not indifference, it is freedom. But freedom has a price. It requires death, the death of the ego that demands constant confirmation, the death of the child who cannot tolerate uncertainty, the death of the addict who craves stimulation more than growth. Each time you follow your plan with discipline, you bury a part of that old self. Each time you accept a loss with calm, you lay another fragment of ego in the grave. It is a long funeral, but from it rises something new. The trader as master, no longer ruled by shadow, but guided by Yet even mastery is not a destination, but a practice. To imagine one has conquered fear forever is to invite its return. To believe one is immune to greed is to welcome its seduction. The work of shadow integration is never finished. It is a lifelong dialogue between the conscious and the unconscious, between order and chaos. The trader who thrives is the one who accepts this truth, who walks daily into the fire knowing it will never cease to burn, but also knowing he has learned how to carry the flame without being consumed. The dark lessons of trading are not cruel for cruelty's sake. They are the rites of passage by which a fragmented psyche becomes whole. The market is not punisher, but teacher, demanding not knowledge but transformation. And those who endure, those who are willing to let the ego die and the self be reborn, discover that the real profit was never money at all, but mastery of the inner world. Most traders believe that pain is a signal to retreat, that the sting of loss is proof of failure. Yet in truth, pain is the market's most honest language. Each red number on the screen, each account drawdown, is a mirror held to the psyche, showing where attachment still rules, where illusion still binds, where shadow still commands from the depths. To recoil from this language is to remain blind. To embrace it is to begin the work of liberation. Imagine this: you enter a trade, perfectly aligned with your rules, and still it fails. The chart moves against you, not because of error, but because of randomness. Your plan was sound, yet your account bleeds. The unconscious cries out, "This is unjust. You did everything right. Why are you punished?" In that moment, the archetype of the victim stirs, demanding revenge, urging you to fight the market as though it were a personal enemy. And so you place another trade, not from reason but from rage, and the cycle deepens. What was once strategy becomes vendetta, and the trader becomes gladiator, bleeding not from the market, but from the wounds of his own shadow. The Stoics warned against this trap centuries ago. Seneca wrote that fortune does not bind a man until he binds himself to fortune gifts. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Losses are not punishment. They are inevitabilities, neutral as rain, necessary as winter. To demand a world without loss is to demand a life without reality. The trader who rages at loss is like the sailor cursing the storm. He has mistaken his role. He is not here to control the sea. He is here to master the ship within. But the lesson runs deeper still. Loss is not only inevitable, it is transformative. Each time a trader experiences it with acceptance, the psyche is reforged. The shadow of fear retreats, the chains of ego loosen, and discipline strengthens. Loss becomes less of an enemy and more of an initiation. Each red candle is not death, but baptism in the fire of uncertainty. And the trader who survives this fire does not emerge weaker. He emerges sharper, calmer, unshaken. Has this ever happened to you? After a series of losses, you feel hollow, as though the market has taken more than money, it has taken identity. You begin to question not just your strategy, but your worth. You wonder if you are capable, if you are destined to fail. This collapse of self is the shadow's most dangerous trick, for it confuses outcome with essence. You are not your last trade, nor your last week, nor your last year. To tie your identity to outcomes is to live in chains. But to separate self from result is to taste freedom. Freedom, however, is not detachment born of apathy. It is not numbness, not indifference, not the cold mask of someone who claims not to care. True freedom is fierce engagement with full acceptance. It is stepping into each trade with presence, risking fully, knowing that the outcome does not define you. It is acting with precision and calm, even when the storm rages, because you no longer beg the storm to change. You have become the sailor who trusts his skill, not the sea. This is where modern performance psychology converges with ancient wisdom. Resilience is not built by winning, but by enduring. The mind learns through stress, adapts through strain, strengthens through setback. Every failed trade is not evidence against you. It is resistance training for the psyche. Without pressure, there is no growth. Without mistakes, there is no mastery. The market is not the enemy, is the weight that builds the muscle of discipline. And yet, many traders resist this truth. They obsess over perfect systems, dream of strategies that never fail, hunt for certainty as though it were a buried treasure. But certainty is the grand illusion. The search for it is the addiction that keeps traders enslaved, forever tweaking, forever testing, forever chasing. The truth is both darker and brighter. There is no certainty, but there is clarity, not in outcomes, but in process, not in prediction, but in discipline. If you dare to see it, every chart becomes a meditation, every trade a mirror, every loss a lesson. The trader's real journey is not toward profits, but toward integration, the merging of shadow and self, the acceptance of chaos and order, the discovery of calm in the midst of fire. This is individuation through the market, the process by which a fragmented psyche becomes whole, not by escaping the storm, but by learning to dance within it. The question remains, will you keep fighting shadows as if they were enemies, or will you turn and face them, allowing their darkness to illuminate your path? The answer is not found in the next strategy or the next trade. It is found within, where the true battle has always been. Some traders search endlessly for patterns, believing that the right formation on the chart will finally give them mastery. They analyze, backtest, and refine until their minds are cluttered with endless signals. But beneath this pursuit hides a deeper hunger, not for knowledge, but for control. The unconscious clings to the illusion that certainty can be engineered, that chaos can be tamed. Yet the market is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a living reflection of human psychology, unpredictable, shifting, vast. The more one seeks to conquer it, the more it exposes the fragility of the seeker. Imagine this: you have built the perfect system. The win rate is high, the risk is controlled, the backtests show consistency. For a brief time, it works exactly as designed, and you feel triumphant. Then, without warning, the market shifts. The system falters, the losses accumulate, and suddenly the very foundation you stood upon dissolves. Rage erupts. But this was supposed to work. I earned this certainty, yet certainty was never yours to hold. The market only lent you temporary alignment, and now it demands that you adapt. The archetype of the builder confronts the archetype of impermanence, and in that clash lies the test of your evolution. Some traders collapse here. They abandon one system for another, and when that fails, they seek yet another. They live as wanderers, forever chasing the illusion of the flawless grail. Each system becomes a new mask for the same old wound, the refusal to accept uncertainty. The tragedy is not that they lose money. The tragedy is that they never see the truth. The grail is not a strategy, it is the disciplined self who can trade any strategy with consistency, who does not collapse when randomness arrives. What would you think if I told you that the market rewards surrender more than control? Not surrender in the sense of defeat, but surrender in the sense of acceptance. To surrender is to acknowledge that outcomes are not yours to command, but actions are. You cannot dictate whether a trade will win, but you can dictate whether you followed your plan. You cannot command the chart to move in your favor, but you can command yourself to exit when the plan says exit. The only true mastery is mastery over choice. This is where the archetype of the Stoic intersects with the archetype of the warrior. The Stoic accepts the limits of control, while the warrior acts with discipline within those limits. Together, they form the trader who does not tremble at uncertainty, who does not rage at loss, who does not inflate with pride at profit. He stands like a mountain, unmoved by the storm, not because he ignores it, but because he has aligned with it. Have you ever found yourself intoxicated by a string of wins, only to sabotage yourself in the very moment of triumph? You tell yourself you deserve more, that this is the beginning of greatness, and so you double your risk, abandon your rules, and within hours give back all that you gained. This is not bad luck, it is the shadow of greed, the archetype of the tyrant demanding endless tribute. The tyrant is never satisfied, and so he destroys his own kingdom. Only when you dethrone him, replacing his hunger with discipline, can your kingdom endure. But the shadow does not only appear in wins, it waits in losses too. When a series of trades fail, the archetype of despair arises, whispering that you are cursed, that you are unworthy, that you should quit. This is the voice of the victim, a mask of fear disguised as truth. Yet Marcus Aurelius warned, if it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. Losses are endurable. Drawdowns are endurable. What is not endurable is self-deception, the refusal to face the truth that trading is suffering, and suffering is the path to strength. Modern psychology has revealed what ancient philosophy already knew. Resilience is not the absence of stress, but the capacity to recover from it. The nervous system adapts when it is stretched, just as muscles grow under strain. Each disciplined loss strengthens the mind. Each patient wait trains the will. Each controlled risk builds tolerance. The trader who embraces this process no longer fears stress, he uses it as fuel. Consider the alchemist again. He does not curse the fire for burning, for without fire, there is no transformation. In the same way, the trader who curses volatility, randomness, and loss has missed the essence of the path. These are not enemies, they are the very instruments of growth. To reject them is to reject mastery. To accept them is to begin walking the narrow bridge between chaos and order, where individuation occurs. And here lies the darkest, yet most liberating lesson. The market owes you nothing. It does not reward effort. It does not recognize sacrifice. It does not bend to desire. It is indifferent, merciless, yet honest. And in that indifference lies its purity. For the trader who stops demanding from the market what must be found within himself, there is peace. He no longer begs the chart for validation, no longer measures his worth by equity curves, no longer fears the randomness of each tick. He has discovered that mastery is not in conquering the market, but in conquering the mind that faces it. Most traders entered the market seeking freedom, but what they truly seek is not freedom at all, it is escape. Escape from financial pressure, escape from the weight of ordinary life, escape from the feeling of insignificance. They dream of wealth, of control, of validation. Yet in chasing freedom outside, they bind themselves more tightly inside. The market becomes a mirror of their longing, and instead of liberation they find a new prison, one forged of fear, greed, and obsession. Imagine this. Your account balance rises, and for a brief moment you feel invincible. You walk differently, speak differently, your chest swells with the pride of one who believes he has conquered fate. But then the next week, losses erase those gains, and suddenly you feel small, ashamed, unworthy. Your identity swings with every trade. Your mood rises and falls with the P&L. This is not freedom, it is slavery to numbers on a screen. You have given your soul to outcomes, and outcomes are merciless masters. What would you think if I told you that true trading mastery has little to do with profits, and everything to do with detachment? Detachment is not indifference. It is the ability to act with full commitment, yet remain untouched by result. To enter each trade with courage, to risk loss without trembling, to accept victory without intoxication. Detachment is not coldness, is strength, the strength to remain whole, regardless of outcome. The archetype of the sage embodies this truth. The sage does not cling to the past or demand the future. He lives fully in the present, aware, deliberate, calm. The sage knows that every trade is just one among thousands, that no single outcome can define him, that the market is a path, not a destination. When the sage trades, he does not beg the chart for meaning. He brings meaning to the chart through his discipline. Stoic philosophy echoes this. Epictetus taught that freedom is not achieved by fulfilling desires, but by removing the hold they have over you. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the universe is change, and life is opinion. For the trader, this means that charts will always shift, outcomes will always vary, but the meaning assigned to them belongs entirely to the self. If you decide that loss is failure, it becomes failure. If you decide that loss is tuition, it becomes growth. Meaning is the trader's last domain of sovereignty. Have you ever noticed how quiet the mind becomes when you no longer need the market to prove anything? The noise of fear softens, the hunger of greed weakens, the ego loosens its grip. In that silence, clarity arises. You begin to see probabilities as they are, not as you wish them to be. You take trades because they fit the plan, not because they promise salvation. You exit when the plan says exit, without anger, without hope, without despair. This is the zone, not a mystical state gifted by chance, but a cultivated alignment between mind and action. In this state, the archetype of the warrior emerges not in rage, but in discipline. The warrior acts without hesitation, not because he is fearless, but because he has made peace with fear. He risks, not recklessly, but with precision, knowing that each risk is simply part of the battle. The warrior does not measure his worth by victory, but by fidelity to the code, and his code is discipline. Here lies the final dark lesson. Trading is not about money, it is about mastery of self. Money is the byproduct, never the essence. Those who chase it directly are consumed, but those who master themselves find that money follows naturally, just as shadow follows form. The trader journey is not the pursuit of wealth, but the pursuit of individuation, the forging of wholeness in the fires of uncertainty. At last, when the trader has walked through fear, endured loss, confronted greed, integrated shadow, and embraced detachment, he discovers something unexpected. He no longer needs the market to feel whole. He no longer demands it to fill his emptiness. He no longer treats it as a god to worship or a demon to fight. The market is simply the market, a vast ocean of probabilities, and he is simply a sailor, skilled, steady, free. And in that freedom, paradoxically, the trader becomes what he sought all along, not wealthy in account alone, but wealthy in soul, wealthy in calm, wealthy in discipline, wealthy in mastery. He has become sovereign over himself, and thus sovereign in the market. The trader who conquers the mind has already conquered the market.